camera. Hopefully we've got some sound. Facebook Live, Big Farmland Bird count. Be interested to know whether you can actually hear us. Wind is going to be a bit of a problem with the microphone, but today already I've seen red kites. I've even seen a cormorant flying over at Loddington. Through this gap here you can see some of our whale-pockers. You can see some birds through there. There are probably some crows surfing on the wind there a little bit. I've seen a sparrowhawk sitting on the salt bit by the side of the road as well. We've seen robins, blackbirds, blue tits in the village. Of course, a lot of the birds, when you go bird watching with your binoculars, you usually got to keep quiet. So whether we're actually going to see many birds, so if you're out and about, nice and quiet for 5 or 10 minutes, the birds will come back to the feeder. And if we look down here at one of our feeders, here, we've got seed on the ground here, and if I rustle a bit of it out, in here, we've got some millet and some wheat and some oilseed rape, and the birds will be around here. In fact, up in these bushes along here, we've seen bullfinches and chaffinches, but we really do need, you can just hear some of the chaffinches tweeting away up there, but we need to move away a little bit. So I don't know whether we're getting sound or not. We're getting sound, so we've started. So let's talk about the sorts of birds and the sorts of habitats. So nice sheltered habitat, ivy, cuttings in through the farm there where it's very sheltered. Lots of the small birds, wrens, goldcrest we saw on Friday as well. Fantastic, very sheltered, away from birds of prey. I talked about a sparrowhawk. It's not a perfect world out there, and a sparrowhawk will peruse these hedgerows and shoot in and out of that, and obviously some of the small birds fall prey to that. However, if we look down this hedgerow as well, you can see actually in here you've got a nest. If we look up in here, this time of year is great to see where birds have been nesting in the summer, so you'll see the remnants of a nest there, either something like blackbird or and also some of these birds don't just nest in the hedgerows, they nest in the grass margins as well. So things like whitethroats and yellowhammers, either in the bottom of the hedge or in the grass. Right, we're going to take a little bit more of a walk, now we've got sound, and see if we can see some farmland birds out in a more open space. Bear with us with the wind. Come on, let's go and take a little walk along. These are some of the feeders we use for feeding as well. So yellowhammers particularly like some of the grains, those feeders are good for that. And so we're just moving out here, we'll just stop here before we get out to it. This is our agroforestry project as well. And the sorts of birds you'll see out here, in fact that looks like a pigeon going at some rate over there. But wood pigeons out there, you'll see kestrels hovering out here, as I said, red kites. And the other thing, I can just pick up something tweeting in there, they're beginning to come back into the woodland now. Quite sure what that is, let's just have a look. Oh, we've got a bullfinch up there. So returning back to the open farmland, and actually what you'll hear, probably it's a bit windy today, but you'll hear skylarks up there, very tweetering right in the sky. You look to where they are, you can't see them up in the sky, they're miles up in the sky. I say miles, I exaggerate a little bit, they're probably 30 or 40 feet up in the air there, but they're very distant in the air. Okay, let's take a little bit more of a walk, we'll go and have a little look at see if we can find anything else. I'll keep it is pretty cold here today. They say the wind chill's about -2 or 3, it feels colder than that, but and then I just imagine a lot of these birds are in these sort of shelter belts here, hiding and making sure they're in the warm as well. You know, you'll notice this time of year they'll fluff their feathers up quite a lot. Are we all right?
Yeah.
Are we getting any people watching?
About 20.
20, that's good. Keep coming, tell your mates we're live, tell people we're live on Facebook Live though, we managed to sort the sound out. We're going to walk down and have a look at an area where songbirds get water from. You'll see down the track here, there's lots of water, it's been very wet here. But in the summer, there's never really as much water this is about. So it's really key to build some ponds or have some wet areas where songbirds can drink water from. Okay. Yeah, I can hear a few birds in there. I'm not great on my on bird song, but in fact, Yeah, there's a couple of crows out in the field there on guard duty up on the cereal crop there. So this time of year, obviously, with no leaves on the trees and with a very cold wind, you'll find a lot of these birds at the bottom of the hedges, keeping out of harm's way. The other thing as well is you'll see this shelter up here full of trees that have got quite good plants and trees that are evergreens as well, with ivy. So that there's some nice warmth, and you'll find in the winter time a lot of those birds will be, you know, they're small, they puff their feathers up to keep warm, but in those evergreen areas are really good for keeping them warm and safe as well, because there's lots of things that, you know, songbirds will want to make sure that, you know, in order to make a good population of them for the future, they're going to need to survive. So that shelter in the winter is really vital. Caught us a bit off guard this morning because we spent 20 minutes scrambling around to try and make the technology work. In fact, if you're just over here, Ollie, you'll see there's just a hedge here is one of our barn owl boxes. Probably the wrong time of day to be looking for barn owls. Early morning, late night. They'll be perusing these hedgerows looking for small mammals, maybe voles. And actually, we found in this forestry project that some of these small voles actually like living in the tree guards. Okay.
How's the agroforestry going along?
Forestry's going well. You see these taller tree guards in here. They're now beginning to see these trees breaking out from the guards. It's been here about 4 or 5 years. In fact, we've got a red kite over there. Can you see it in the distance? At the bottom there's a red kite just flying down low. He's just cruising down there. He's just gliding over there. Majestic bird, probably about a 5-foot wingspan. And there's a small flock of brown. I think they look like finches just going as well at the same stage. You can see them just flying around. So we're beginning to see some birds now. The red kite's just above the agroforestry there. Yeah, he's done well to just pop up and call in and see us at the moment. But yeah, the agroforestry, grazing sheep, with a landscape with trees in it as well, really useful habitat. And also there's that story around conservation and trying to capture carbon dioxide from the air and putting it into wood and storing it in the ground.
How many barn owls do we have?
We've probably got about 2 or 3 barn owls on the farm. It does vary from year to year, the success of how many chicks they'll have as well. We just spent a bit of time constructing some new barn owl boxes, so we've got about 6 or 7 barn owl boxes and 2 or 3 barn owls. I mean, they are a majestic bird. We tend to see that they're quite difficult to see as well because they tend to go out just as we're going in. So, but yeah, no, there's 2 or 3 of them around, and there's there's a barn owl box on the horizon, and that one tends to probably do the whole of that eastern fringe of the farm. Yeah, great bird, lovely bird, actually bigger than you think as well. Okay, we're going to move down here and have a look at some of the water, and you'll see some of the water here. In fact, I'm just going to stop a minute because there's something over there. It's just... We've had a small flock of starlings around, and we've been feeding in someone else's farmyard over there on St Mays, but they've been also in our oilseed rape field. There was about maybe 200 of them yesterday. I think that's some remnants of them, some starlings flying. Starlings. Be feeding on the grasslands as well. Hey, are you right, Ollie?
Yeah, man.
Not too cold. good if we've maybe seen some starlings and some field fares. We've seen red kites. Within the woodland here, the sorts of birds we'll see in this habitat will be bullfinches, chaffinches, a few blue tits, and I would think, yeah, occasionally greenfinches as well. The goldfinch is a really striking bird, white, red, and black on it, quite small, often in small flocks, and they'll feed on some of our farmland bird strips in here. Right, we're going to take a quick wander, Ollie. I don't know where the red kite's gone. Actually, the red kite often feeds on carrion, so things that die out in the countryside, so things like, maybe, they tend to be a bit lazy, the red kite. Here we go. Pretty difficult to identify that. They're moving a bit too fast for my untrained eye. So you can see the sort of water events that we're having around. This is really useful in the summer as well when there's less water around. Songbirds out in the countryside, farmer birds, we use this to drink out. The drains are running well. And this sort of habitat is useful for things like reed buntings as well. So if any of you can imagine what a tree sparrow or a house sparrow looks like, it's similar. Many of them here, but we do have a few. And if we're just going to move into this area here, look at this is a different habitat here as well. So we've got a very shrubby area here with privet, with hazel. Yeah, now that's the very easy ones. There's some wood pigeons, 3 wood pigeons flying out there. They're pretty easy to identify. They're out and about this morning. So yeah, in this area here, this area is really good because it's we've got lots of cover. We've got lots of different habitat. We've got lots of berries on there. I'm not sure. I'm just going to have a look and see how much berries are on there. Most of the berries have disappeared off here. So you've got a few roses as well. You've got privet. You've got bramble as well, and a willow, goat willow in here, and hazel. So quite a good habitat. Just have a look, see what's Okay, so listen, we're probably going to wind it up a little bit because it's absolutely freezing out here and we're still having a few problems with it. So, let's start at the beginning. Coming here today we've seen blackbirds, robins, wrens. We've even seen a cormorant flying over, which is the first time I think in ages that we've seen a cormorant fly over Loddington. It must have been on its way to Rutland Water. We've seen chaffinches, bullfinches. We saw collared dove by the feeders when we first started, when we were having the sound issues. We've seen a red kite hovering over our agroforestry. We talked about the barn owl boxes. No barn owls for you today, I'm afraid. We've also seen and heard some chaffinches and seen a bullfinch. Obviously the more common ones, we've seen some crows, we've seen wood pigeons. I saw a sparrowhawk on the salt bin on the
Yellowhammers?
Yeah, actually yellowhammers. We haven't seen any yellowhammers, but on Friday when we were out, yellowhammers will tend to be more of our more open farmland here. So the open farmland along our hedges there, yellowhammers particularly like to be out on those hedges away from the built-up tree area, and they're very striking. If you're out all day, the most colourful bird. They're the most colourful bird we have out on the farm, I think. Them and the bullfinch are my 2 favourites. Easily identifiable. The yellowhammer, really nice striking top half of the bird. It's very yellow, but they like the more open farmland. And the other one thing is that you probably won't hear them today because it's a bit cold. But skylarks, they'll be up flying high in this open farmland. They nest out in the open fields as well, along with things like lapwings. So yeah, and then as we've come out into the middle of the farm here, as I said, I mentioned reed buntings. so vital for us to make sure we've got the hedgerow trees as well. So I don't know if we've got any questions at all, Ollie, coming have we?
I've been asking them as we've been.
Okay, that's fine. Right, well, I think we're going to go and have a cup of coffee. I'm sorry that was a bit of it wasn't quite as slick as we usually like to have because of the problems with the sound, but I hope you enjoyed it this morning. We're going to find a cup of coffee. I hope you enjoyed Facebook Live. Thanks very much indeed for joining us.